My name is Destiny Kent. I'm 32. At 6:51 a.m. on a freezing Tuesday morning, my own kitchen felt like an active war zone, the air vibrating with my brother's screaming as my French roast coffee burned black and bitter on the gas stove. "You are pathetic, Destiny." Sawyer's face was a mottled, furious purple, spit literally flying across my granite island to land on my knuckles. 32 years old and you literally play in the garbage for a living. You should be begging to pay for this engagement party just to have a single ounce of class attached to your dirty name. My mother, Ruth, stood right behind him, her arms crossed tightly over her cashmere sweater. The thermostat read 68 degrees, but my hands were entirely numb. "Sawyer is right," Ruth said, her voice dripping with that quiet, lethal disappointment she had perfected over 3 decades. "You dragged $12,000 out of your little trash company. Lane already pushed the transfer through. The auto museum is booked. Morgan has her heart set on the vintage photo booth and the champagne tower. Don't you dare ruin this because you're jealous of your brother's happiness. You handle the garbage, Destiny. Let us handle the class." Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time it is there. I stared at the two of them. My chest was tight, my pulse hammering so hard in my throat I could barely swallow. They had stolen from me. Sawyer's best friend, Lane York, who had done some freelance bookkeeping for my company 2 years ago, had somehow retained back-end access to my secondary operating account. He had illegally authorized 4 separate wire transfers: $4,500 for the Detroit Automotive Heritage Museum venue deposit, $3,200 for platinum tier catering, $1,800 for top-shelf bartender service, and $2,500 for a luxury vintage photo booth. $12,000 vanished in the night to fund my brother's engagement to Morgan Nash. "I didn't authorize those payments," I said, my voice shaking slightly despite my best efforts to control it. "That is corporate money, Sawyer. You and Lane committed wire fraud." Sawyer slammed his hand down on the granite. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "Oh, shut up with the corporate CEO act. You own a literal dump in the suburbs. You sort through industrial sludge and scrap metal. Morgan's family is coming from New York, and if you think I'm going to let them see me struggling while my spinster sister hoards her trash money, you're insane. The money is spent. Deal with it." They walked out, the heavy oak front door slamming so hard the framed photos in the hallway rattled. I stood alone in the quiet kitchen, the smell of burnt coffee stinging my eyes, and finally, a single tear tracked hot down my cheek. Let me take you back 8 years to a humid afternoon in July. I was 24, sitting on the faded floral sofa in Grandma Evelyn's sunroom. She was 84 then. The room smelled powerfully of blooming jasmine and the sweet vanilla pound cake she baked every Sunday. I was exhausted, covered in a thin layer of soot, having just pulled a 14-hour shift at my first managerial job at the waste plant. My mother had just called me a glorified street sweeper at Sunday dinner, and I was crying into a porcelain teacup. Grandma Evelyn reached out, her frail, paper-thin hand resting over mine. Her skin was cool, her grip surprisingly strong. "They look at the dirt, Destiny, because they are too short-sighted to see the gold," she whispered, her eyes fierce and unblinking behind her wire-rimmed glasses. "You are building something real. Let them laugh. Let them sneer. You are the architect of your own empire, little star, and when the time comes, the foundation you build will be the only thing left standing." I held on to that memory like a lifeline. Grandma Evelyn had passed away 4 years ago, leaving a massive, gaping hole in my life. She was the only one who had ever defended me against Ruth's constant belittling and Sawyer's golden boy entitlement. Without her, the family's toxicity had metastasized. The consequences of my silent resistance to their theft cascaded faster than I could have imagined. By 9 p.m. that same night, my phone was buzzing incessantly. I opened the Kent Family Updates group chat. My cousin Finley, who shadowed Morgan like a desperate puppy, had posted a series of memes. One was a picture of a garbage truck with my face crudely photoshopped onto the driver, captioned, "When the sewer rat tries to cancel the wedding of the year because she's single and smells like industrial waste." There were 24 laughing emojis beneath it from various aunts and uncles. Morgan had chimed in, "It's so sad, honestly." We tried to include her, but I guess some people just resent anyone who actually has hygiene and a future. I felt my face burn so hot I could feel my pulse in my teeth. I checked my business bank app. The balance in the secondary operations account read $314.12. They hadn't just taken the $12,000, they had timed it perfectly right before the end-of-month vendor payouts. I had to pull from my personal emergency savings just to make sure my forklift operators got their payroll on Friday. My hands shook as I transferred the funds, staring at the screen until the numbers blurred. I went into survival mode. My business, Kent Industrial Waste Processing, was located in the gritty, industrial sprawl of the Detroit suburbs. We handled thousands of tons of industrial runoff, scrap, and manufacturing byproducts every single month, turning literal trash into highly lucrative, recycled revenue streams. The air out there always smelled of ozone, crushed aluminum, and diesel exhaust. To me, it smelled like freedom. For the next 3 weeks, I threw myself into the grime. I was wearing steel-toed boots, high-vis vests, and a hard hat, overseeing the construction of our brand-new 14-foot automated sorting line. I had just submitted a massive $4.2 million bid for a city compliance contract. My site manager, an older, gruff man named Marcus who had been in the business for 40 years, noticed my dark circles. "You're running yourself into the ground, boss," Marcus said one afternoon, handing me a bottle of water over the roar of the heavy machinery. "You signed off on those quarterly profit reports at 4 a.m. I saw the timestamps. You gotta sleep." "I'm fine, Marcus," I lied, wiping grease off my forehead. But the harassment didn't stop. Sawyer would call me from blocked numbers, leaving voicemails calling me a greedy pig. Then Finley posted daily TikToks vaguely referencing her toxic, jealous, trash lady cousin. But the breaking point, the moment that fundamentally altered the trajectory of my life, happened on a Thursday afternoon at exactly 2:14 p.m. I was standing on the loading dock with Marcus and 3 of my top foremen, going over the blueprints for the new recycling plant expansion. A sleek black Range Rover pulled up to the gravel lot, the tires crunching loudly. The doors opened, and out stepped Ruth, Sawyer, and Morgan. Morgan was wearing a pristine white designer trench coat, holding a literal silk handkerchief over her nose. Sawyer looked furious, and my mother looked thoroughly disgusted, staring at the corrugated steel walls of my facility, as if looking at a diseased animal. They marched right up to the loading dock. My foreman stopped talking. The heavy machinery hummed in the background. "Destiny!" Ruth snapped, not even acknowledging my crew. "Lane just told us you changed the routing numbers on the corporate accounts. We need another $4,000 for the floral arrangements. The Auto Museum requires custom freestanding pillars. Put the numbers back." I stared at her. "You came to my place of business to demand more stolen money?" Sawyer stepped forward, jabbing a finger toward my chest. "Don't play the victim, you sewer rat. You owe us for putting up with your embarrassing lifestyle. Do you know how humiliating it is to tell Morgan's family that my sister runs a literal dump? You're paying for those flowers, or we are banning you from the engagement party. You'll be dead to this family." Morgan fake coughed into her silk handkerchief. "Sawyer, let's just go. The smell is clinging to my hair. It's making me nauseous. She's clearly exactly what you said she was." 3 of my employees were watching, their eyes wide. A year ago, I would have cried. I would have shrunk into myself, apologized, and written the check just to keep the peace. But standing there, listening to them insult my life's work while demanding my money, something inside me clicked. The desperation vanished. It hardened into a cold, diamond-solid clarity. "I won't be changing the routing numbers," I said calmly. My voice didn't waver. "And I won't be paying for your flowers. Please leave my property before I have Marcus call security. Ruth's jaw dropped. Sawyer's face twisted in rage. You handle the garbage, Destiny, he spat, repeating his favorite line. Let us handle the class. You'll regret this. They got back in the Range Rover and sped off, kicking up a cloud of gray dust. Marcus looked at me, his weathered face deadpan. Want me to log their license plate for the trespass list? Yes, I said quietly. Put them on the permanent ban list. That evening, I sat in my small office at the plant, going through the old digital archives to figure out exactly how Lane York had bypassed our security protocols. I opened a dusty encrypted folder from my early days of starting the company, looking for his original freelancer contract. Instead, buried in a subfolder labeled legal/MISC, I found an anomaly. It was a digital copy of a letter. The file name was simply, For My Little Star. My stomach dropped. My toes went completely numb. I clicked open the file. It was a scanned document, dated 8 years ago, signed by Grandma Evelyn. It was just a placeholder note that read, Destiny, if you are reading this, I am gone. I have left something crucial with my attorney, Arthur Sterling. Call him. He has been waiting. I stared at the screen for 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Grandma Evelyn had been planning something. Hope flickered in my chest, terrifying and bright. The next morning, despite Sawyer texting me a fresh threat, you have 48 hours to wire the flower money, or I'm telling the whole extended family you tried to sabotage the wedding because of your mental health. I drove straight to downtown Detroit. I walked into the mahogany-paneled office of Sterling & Associates. Mr. Sterling was a tall, distinguished man in his 60s. When I told him my name, his professional demeanor softened instantly. Destiny, he said, standing up and offering a warm, genuine smile. I have been waiting for you to walk through those doors for 4 years. Your grandmother asked me to wait for the right time. She said you would only come searching when the family finally pushed you past the point of no return. He walked over to a heavy steel wall safe, spun the dial, and extracted a thick, sealed manila envelope. He handed it to me. The paper was heavy. My hands trembled as I took it. I'll give you the room, Mr. Sterling said quietly, stepping out and closing the heavy wooden door behind him. I sat down in the leather chair. The silence in the office was absolute. I broke the wax seal on the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter on Evelyn's personal stationery, along with a thick stack of legal documents and bank statements. I unfolded the letter. I read it twice, 3 times. The words didn't change. Dear Destiny, if you are reading this, then I'm gone. And Sawyer and your mother are already doing exactly what I knew they would do. They are trying to bleed you dry. I am so sorry I couldn't stop their cruelty while I was alive. I tried, but your mother does not hear reason. She only hears status. Do you remember that July afternoon in my sunroom? I told you that you are the architect of your own empire. I meant it. You have always been the strongest of us all. The original documents enclosed here are legally binding, registered, and impenetrable. His office is at 402 North Hawthorne Street. Inside this envelope, you will find legal proof of complete, unencumbered ownership of the house your mother and Sawyer currently live in. I never transferred the deed to Ruth. I put it in a blind trust for you. Bank statements detailing 8 years of Ruth and Sawyer siphoning money from my accounts, which I quietly documented. A sworn notarized affidavit from me detailing their financial abuses. The access codes to a private high-yield account I funded solely for your business expansion. They will try to humiliate you, Destiny. They will tell you that you are dirt, but you are not what they call you. You are brilliant. You are capable. You are the architect, little star. Always have been. Take back your life. All my love, your fiercest protector, Grandma Evelyn. I sat in that chair for 20 minutes. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. A profound, overwhelming sense of peace washed over me. I wasn't just protected, I was armed. I looked at the property deed. the sprawling colonial house Ruth and Sawyer paraded around in as their status symbol. It belonged to me. I examined the rest of the documents. I realized the scale of my grandmother's foresight. She had known exactly who they were. I made my decision then. I wasn't going to seek petty revenge. I was just going to let the absolute truth see the light of day. For the next 2 weeks, I remained entirely silent. I didn't respond to Finley's viral videos mocking my job. I didn't reply to Morgan's passive-aggressive texts. I worked. I finalized the $4.2 million city compliance contract. I submitted my payroll. And quietly, meticulously, I gathered my own evidence regarding Lane York's wire fraud. Then came Friday, the day of the engagement party, at exactly 4 p.m., and I called the fraud department of my commercial bank. I provided them with the time-stamped municipal video of me sitting in the Detroit City Council chambers at 9:15 a.m. on the day the transfers were made. I provided the public ledger, my signed compliance contracts, and my GPS logs. I proved, unequivocally, that I could not have authorized the two-factor authentication that pushed the $12,000 to the auto museum. I formally reported the transfers as fraudulent and unauthorized. The bank immediately reversed the charges, clawing the funds back from the vendor accounts. At 6:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a text from Sawyer. "Don't come to the engagement party tonight. People will smell the sewer on you. Stay in your dump where you belong." I locked my phone. I went to my closet, put on a perfectly tailored charcoal blazer, grabbed a sleek black leather portfolio containing all the documents, and drove to the Detroit Automotive Heritage Museum. I arrived at 7:30 p.m. The venue was spectacular. Harsh halogen lights gleamed off the polished chrome of a 1964 Aston Martin and a pristine 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air. There were at least 150 guests milling around in tuxedos and evening gowns. Waiters carried silver trays of $2,400 worth of shrimp cocktail and imported caviar. But as I walked through the grand glass doors, the atmosphere was not celebratory. It was chaotic. In the center of the room, near the towering champagne pyramid, a full-scale meltdown was occurring. The museum's event director, a stern woman with an iPad, was flanked by 2 security guards. The head caterer was furiously instructing his staff to pack up the food. Morgan Nash was standing near a vintage Porsche, her phone held high on a tripod, tears streaming down her face as she live-streamed the event to her hundreds of followers. We don't understand," she sobbed into the camera. "The venue is kicking us out. The caterers are leaving. This is a nightmare." Finley was running around frantically, holding her own phone, trying to record the caterers. Sawyer and Ruth were cornering the event director, their faces red with indignation. "You can't do this!" Sawyer yelled, his voice echoing off the high ceilings. "We paid $12,000. We have a contract." "Sir," the director said loudly, ensuring the surrounding 30-plus relatives and guests heard her, "the $12,000 was flagged as fraudulent by the issuing bank exactly 3 hours ago. The wire was reversed due to unauthorized access to a corporate account. Unless you have $12,000 in a certified cashier's check right this second, you are trespassing." I walked calmly toward the center of the room. The crowd parted. The click of my heels on the polished concrete floor drew their attention. Sawyer saw me first. His eyes widened, then narrowed into pure, venomous hatred. "You!" he screamed, lunging forward before his best friend Lane grabbed his arm. "You canceled the payments. You psycho! You ruined my wedding because you're a jealous, garbage-picking sewer rat." The entire room fell dead silent. Morgan swung her camera tripod around to face me, ensuring my face was broadcast to her live stream. "Look at her," Morgan wailed to her audience. "She just hates seeing us happy." I stopped 10 feet away from them. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shake. I looked at Sawyer, then at my mother, and finally at Lane York, who was suddenly looking very pale. "I didn't ruin anything," I said. My voice was calm, carrying easily in the silent room. I simply reclaimed the money that Lane York stole from my company's operating account to fund this party. Lane swallowed hard. That's a lie, he stammered. She authorized it. She told me to do it. I unzipped the black leather portfolio. I didn't authorize it, Lane, which is why the bank reversed it. I was with the Detroit City Council signing a $4.2 million municipal contract at 9:15 a.m. on Tuesday. I have the time-stamped municipal video, the public ledger, and the signed bid right here. I have also handed over your IP address login logs to the Commercial Fraud Division. Lane's color drained completely. His jaw dropped. He took a step back, bumping into the Aston Martin. Ruth stepped forward, her face twisted in a desperate sneer. You vindictive little brat! You embarrassed us in front of all these people. After everything we've given you, you pull this stunt over a measly $12,000? You are dead to this family. I am dead to you? I asked, pulling the next document from my portfolio. Mother, you and Sawyer have treated me like dirt for my entire life. You called me a street sweeper. You mocked my business while using it as your personal ATM. But Grandma Evelyn knew exactly what you were doing. I held up the heavy, cream-colored stationery. Sawyer laughed, a frantic, unhinged sound. Oh, bringing up a dead woman? Pathetic! She's dead, but her legal trust is very much active, I said. I looked around the room. My Uncle David, my Aunt Sarah, and dozens of Morgan's high society relatives were watching, utterly captivated. I turned my eyes back to Ruth. Grandma Evelyn left this letter for me. She also left me the deed to the colonial house on Maple Drive. Ruth froze. The anger vanished from her face, replaced by a sudden hollow terror. What? The house you live in, Mother, I stated clearly. The one you parade around as your own. Grandma Evelyn never transferred the deed to you. She put it in a blind trust for me. I own it. And as of 9 a.m. Monday morning, you and Sawyer will receive your 30-day eviction notices. Sawyer's face turned ashen. He looked at Morgan, who had lowered her phone, her mouth hanging open. Sawyer panicked. He self-destructed right there in front of the cameras. You can't do that, Sawyer screamed, his voice cracking. We paid for the new roof. We paid for the landscaping with her money. She promised us that house. She owed us for putting up with her when she was sick. You can't take it just because I took a few grand from your stupid trash company. The silence that followed was deafening. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Uncle David stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. Sawyer, did you just admit you stole from your sister and used your dying grandmother's money? Sawyer realized what he had said. He stuttered, looking desperately at Morgan. No, Morgan, baby, listen. Don't touch me, Morgan snapped, backing away from him. She looked at the live stream on her phone, realizing that hundreds of people had just watched her fiancé confess to felony theft and elder exploitation. My mother was hyperventilating, clutching her chest. Destiny, please. We are family. Let's talk about this in private. Don't do this. I looked at her. I felt nothing. No pity, no rage, no triumph. Just the quiet, solid piece of boundaries finally enforced. I'm not here for revenge, I said calmly, addressing the room but looking right at my mother. I'm here for truth. Grandma Evelyn knew this day would come. These documents speak for themselves. I handed the portfolio to Uncle David. You're the family patriarch now, Uncle David. You can read the affidavit yourself. Then, without another word, I turned around. I didn't gloat. I didn't wait for apologies I knew would never be genuine. I walked out of the auto museum, my heels clicking rhythmically, leaving them in the ruins of their own making. 8 months later, the dust had finally settled. Sawyer and Lane both faced felony charges for wire fraud. Lane took a plea deal and turned state's evidence against my brother. Sawyer is currently serving a 2-year suspended sentence and 500 hours of community service, ironically, cleaning up trash on the state highways. Morgan broke off the engagement that very night, deleted all her social media, and moved back to New York. The viral videos Finley posted were permanently taken down, replaced by Morgan's live stream of Sawyer's confession, which lived forever on the internet. Ruth had to move out of the colonial house. I sold the property for $850,000 and rolled every single penny of it into Kent Industrial Waste Processing. Today, my life looks entirely different. I am sitting in my new glass-walled office overlooking the massive 40,000 square foot recycling plant we just finished building. The new automated sorting line is humming beautifully, processing thousands of tons of material with flawless precision. My rescue cat, a fluffy black mix I named Star, is asleep on a velvet cushion on my desk. I have a framed photo of Grandma Evelyn next to my computer monitor. I don't speak to my mother or my brother anymore. And honestly, my life is incredibly peaceful. If you're watching this, I want you to remember something. Silence isn't peace. Silence is the price you pay for someone else's comfort. You do not have to bankrupt your own soul just to fund someone else's illusion. If you've ever had to walk away from someone you love to protect yourself, type, "I walked away" in the comments. Or if you chose to stay and fight for your boundaries, type, "I stayed and fought." Both are brave. Both are valid. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. Stay strong. I looked out the window of my office. Outside, the first gentle flakes of winter snow were beginning to fall over the Detroit suburbs, dusting the massive piles of reclaimed aluminum in sparkling white. The smell of fresh coffee filled my office, warm and perfect. I touched the frame of Grandma Evelyn's picture, smiling softly. The foundation was built, and it was beautiful.